Welcome back, gossip hounds, to another fabulous, headache-inducing episode of Daily Gossip, where the geopolitical tea isn't just scalding hot, it is literally radioactive. Grab your popcorn, pour yourself something incredibly strong, and settle in, because the world stage right now is giving us the kind of unhinged reality television that not even the best Hollywood writers could script. We have exes fighting over custody of nuclear dust, unwanted third wheels trying to crash the party, absolute Twitter meltdowns over who controls the oceans, and people celebrating temporary ceasefires by shooting rocket-propelled grenades into the night sky. I mean, you honestly cannot make this stuff up. So, let's just dive right into the absolute circus that is our current international news cycle, starting with the messiest divorce in modern history, the United States and Iran. If you've been following the timeline, you know that Washington and Tehran have been locked in a toxic relationship for decades. But the latest chapter is truly something out of a fever dream. Picture this. President Donald Trump gets on the phone with Reuters and casually announces that Washington and Iran are basically holding hands, singing Kumbaya, and working together to pack up all of Iran's highly enriched uranium to ship it off to the States. He made it sound like they were coordinating a lovely weekend moving party. According to his version of events, they are going to recover all this in, quote, nuclear dust, in quote. His words, not mine, because apparently we are calling weapons-grade isotopes, in quote, dust, in quote, now like it's something you sweep from under the couch, and they are going to do it together at a, in quote, leisurely pace, in quote, using, in quote, big machines, and quote, a leisurely pace, because nothing screams, in quote, casual Sunday, in quote, quite like excavating enriched uranium from deep underground bunkers. He even threw in a little rumor control, flat out denying that the U.S. was cutting a $20 billion check to Iran for this glowing magical dust, claiming that absolutely no money is changing hands. It sounded like a done deal, a beautiful compromise, a stunning diplomatic victory. There was just one teeny, tiny, microscopic little problem with this beautiful narrative. Iran entirely forgot they agreed to any of it. In fact, they practically hit the international stage with a giant, in quote, new phone, who dis? End quote. The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Esmail Baghai, marched right up to state television to announce that their enriched uranium ISN and OPOs, going anywhere, period. He essentially said that handing over their precious stash to America has never, ever been an option, putting a massive pin in the balloon of Trump's leisurely excavation dreams. We are talking about over 400 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity, folks. That is the kind of stash that makes everyone in the room incredibly nervous. Trump says the whole point of their pressure campaign is to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, while Iran is still playing the absolute classic hit, swearing up and down that their enrichment program is purely for peaceful civil purposes. You know, just your average, everyday neighborhood nuclear reactors powering the streetlights. Sure. So right now we have Trump planning a victory lap, casually mentioning he might just pop over to Islamabad, Pakistan once the deal is signed, while maintaining a naval blockade just to make sure Iran knows who is boss, predicting a very fast deal because they are getting along, in quote, so well. And quote, getting along so well that Iran is completely contradicting everything he says on live television. It is giving massive, in quote, he said, she said, in quote, energy, and frankly I am exhausted just watching them. But wait, because you cannot have a messy international standoff without that one desperate third wheel trying to slide into the DMs, and naturally that third wheel is Russia. The Kremlin has been sitting in the corner, waving its arms frantically, begging to be included in the narrative. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, stepped up to the microphones to remind everyone that Moscow is totally, 100% willing to take Iran's enriched uranium off everyone's hands. He sounded like a guy who offered to help you move, got rejected, but is still lingering in your driveway just in case. Peskov admitted that the United States has absolutely zero interest in their proposal, noting rather sadly that Washington rejected the idea. But did that stop him? Of course not. He insisted that Russia and OPO's offer has been on the table for a long time, claiming that Tehran actually loved the idea back in the day and called it a, in quote, very good solution, end quote. He even threw in a little PR spin for Iran, claiming they are the most strictly inspected country by the International Atomic Energy Agency, and that nobody has ever proven they are making a bomb. Russia's foreign ministry even went out of its way to declare that Tehran has an, in quote, inalienable right, end quote, to enrich uranium for peaceful purposes. It is a brilliant strategy, really. If the US won in Oppos, T let you sit at the cool kids in Oppos table, just stand outside the window yelling about how you have a better table anyway. Meanwhile, the IEA is sweating bullets in the background, noting that before the military campaigns kicked off, Iran had enough highly enriched uranium to theoretically build about 10 nuclear weapons if they pushed it further. So while America wants to confiscate it, Iran wants to keep it, and Russia is desperately trying to foster it, the radioactive hot potato remains very much in play. Now, as if the glowing dust drama wasn't in Oppos enough to spike your blood pressure, let us pivot to the high seas, where the geopolitical equivalent of a Mean Girls and Oppos cafeteria fight is happening over the Strait of Hormuz. This little 34-kilometer-wide stretch of water is basically the VIP entrance for global energy, handling a massive chunk of the world in Oppos, oil and liquefied natural gas. Naturally, it has become the ultimate bargaining chip. According to Trump, in a speech he gave in Arizona, the skies have parted, the angels are singing, and the Strait of Hormuz is completely open for business. He painted this glorious picture of a world at peace, claiming Iran just decided to open the doors, clear out the naval mines, and promise never to close it again. The man even claimed that NATO called him up, begging to help him sort out the Middle East, and he coolly told them, and quote, "No thanks, I got this." End quote. It was a flex of epic proportions. However, before the confetti could even hit the floor, Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf logged onto X, because where else do world leaders air their grievances these days, and proceeded to read the American president for absolute filth. Ghalibaf dragged him, claiming Trump managed to pack 7 completely false statements into a single 1-hour speech. He made it crystal clear that wars aren't and Oppos T1 with lies, and the fate of the Strait of Hormuz is going to be decided on the actual ground, not on social media. Talk about a reality check. And it didn't in Oppos. T stopped there. Iran and Oppos media outlets chimed in to clarify that the club is not just, end quote, open for everyone, end quote. They slapped a highly exclusive guest list on the strait. You want to sail through? Well, you have to meet their 3 golden rules. No military ships allowed. You absolutely cannot be associated with any of Iran's rivals. You have to take the exact route Iran tells you to take. And you have to coordinate everything with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. It's like trying to get past the toughest bouncer in Ibiza. To make matters spicier, sources close to Iran's Supreme National Security Council threatened that if the U.S. keeps up its naval blockade, which has left hundreds of ships and 20,000 sailors stranded like they're trapped in the world in Oppos' worst cruise ship nightmare, Iran will view it as a breach of the ceasefire and slam the strait shut again. So, depending on who you ask, the strait is either a beacon of free trade or a heavily armed toll booth waiting to snap shut. While the Middle East is busy playing naval chess, let's take a quick flight up to Europe, where Russia is throwing a completely different kind of tantrum. You see, the European Union has been busy stepping up its manufacturing game, specifically churning out drones and UAV parts to send to Ukraine. And let me tell you, Moscow is not amused. The Russian Defense Ministry basically published a Yelp review of European military factories, listing out facilities in the UK, Germany, Spain, Italy, Poland, and more, claiming these places are directly fueling the conflict. But the real gossip came from Dmitry Medvedev, the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, who possesses a flair for the dramatic that belongs on a soap opera. He didn't in Oppos just complain about the factories. He essentially labeled them all as, end quote, potential targets, end quote. He practically looked straight into the camera and said, end quote, sleep well, European partners, end quote, leaving the threat of long-range strikes hanging in the air like a bad perfume. Now, Reuters and other analysts are trying to calm everyone down, saying this is mostly just Russia barking loudly to scare Europe into backing off, rather than a sign of imminent missile strikes on Munich or Madrid. But still, when a global superpower tells you to, end quote, sleep well, end quote, while holding a map of your drone factories, it's safe to say nobody is actually getting their full 8 hours. Drones have become the absolute stars of this modern warfare show, with both sides treating them like highly lethal delivery drones. So the fact that Russia is threatening the supply chain directly is the kind of escalation that keeps defense ministers sweating through their suits. Finally, because we all love a good, highly unstable reconciliation arc, we have to talk about the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. Trump triumphantly announced that after some incredibly productive chats with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Lebanese leadership, they agreed to a 10-day timeout. A solid 10 days of not blowing each other up. The reaction in Lebanon was instantaneous and entirely chaotic. Imagine the wildest street party you have ever seen, and then add live ammunition. People in Beirut, Sidon, and the Hezbollah stronghold of Dahia flooded the streets in the dead of night. They were waving flags, honking horns, and, because this is how we express joy in 2026, firing automatic weapons and anti-tank rocket-propelled grenades into the night sky. Yes, you heard that correctly. Rocket-propelled grenades. Just as a treat. The stray bullets and falling debris ended up damaging cars and private property, and some people actually got hurt while celebrating not getting hurt in the war. It's the ultimate irony. But beneath the surface of this street party, the trust issues are deeper than the Mariana Trench. The UN is begging everyone to play nice, but Hezbollah's senior folks are side-eyeing the whole situation, saying they will only commit if Israel actually stops its hostilities. Meanwhile, Israel is sitting there like the kid who agreed to a timeout but refuses to leave the corner, flatly stating that their army has absolutely zero plans to pull back from southern Lebanon during this ceasefire. They even warned Lebanese residents not to go back to their homes south of the Litani River because Israeli forces are still hanging out there. Oh, and just to make sure they got the last word in before the bell rang, the Israeli military casually mentioned they pounded over 380 Hezbollah-linked targets right before the ceasefire kicked in. Just a casual 380 airstrikes to set the mood for peace. It has been an absolutely brutal conflict, with over 2,000 lives lost and over 1 million people displaced. So seeing people pack up their cars in Sidon, desperate to just go home, is heartbreaking. But with Israel keeping its troops firmly planted and Hezbollah waiting with bated breath, this ceasefire feels less like a resolution and more like a very tense intermission before the next act begins. So there you have it, folks. From phantom nuclear dust and the Kremlin and Oppo's desperate cries for attention, to Twitter wars over ocean tolls, passive-aggressive threats to European factories, and ceasefires celebrated with heavy artillery. The world is a dramatic, chaotic, unpredictable mess, and the leaders in charge are giving us reality TV gold while playing with actual fire. Keep your notifications on and your expectations low, because if there is one thing we know for sure, it is that the drama is never truly over. Until next time, stay petty and stay informed.